Good evening. This is Christopher Long here to talk about my mapping project. I am a military historian and specialize in the period of the American Revolutionary War. I work at a civics and history education center specializing in the foundation of the country. And so I wanted to look at a particular regiment of soldiers. What fascinates me about this time period is that our founders had this fear of professional standing armies. They looked at the examples of Caesar and Cromwell, men who had taken armies and used those armies to seize power. And the founding fathers did not want the same thing to happen here. So it was this deep Republican distrust of standing armies, yet we have to fight a war against Britain. We need to have a regular standing army. So, looking at how the American Army was created during the Revolutionary War, how it was trained, how it was organized, its history, uh, I look at those things, try to answer the question: how do they reconcile their fear of standing armies with the need for a standing army? Now, the regiment I chose to look at for my project is the 1st Pennsylvania Regiment, which served in some form or another throughout the entire Revolutionary War. I chose this for a couple of reasons. One is it really encapsulates the experience of the Continental Army. It began as a battalion of riflemen. Now, during the time of the Revolution, rifles are very specialized weapons. They, as most of you may well know, a rifle, if you look down the barrel, has a series of grooves that spin the shot as it's fired, making it much more accurate, much longer ranged. So riflemen were raised on June 14th, 1775, just a few months after Lexington and Concord. After Lexington and Concord, the New England militia comes out and they surround Boston. Congress adopts this New England Army as the American or Continental Army, appoints Washington to command, and reinforces it with riflemen from Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Maryland. Now, riflemen, I described the workings of the rifle, very peculiar weapons. They're not mass produced. Every rifleman brought his own weapon from home. And their job in the siege of Boston was to go up and down the lines, pick off enemy officers, couriers, things like that. Now, to do this, they were not part of any sort of fatigue work. They didn't have to go stand guard. They didn't have to dig in trenches or dig latrines or things like that. But they proved to be very, very ill disciplined. In fact, at one point, when one of them was arrested, they actually mutinied, threatened to come to the stockade, get the man out. After that, they were put on the same duties as any other soldiers. As the war progresses, they lose their identity as riflemen. They adopt muskets, which are much shorter range, much less accurate weapons, but can be loaded very, very quickly. And muskets also use the bayonet. And this is key because working with muskets, you have to learn to stand, march, load, and fire together to be effective. So this transition from rifles to muskets is not just a story of changing from one weapon to the other. It's showing the Army is now maturing from this collection of frontier riflemen, militiamen. We're now becoming a regular standing army. Enlistments go for a few months to a year, then to 3 years, the duration of the entire war. And my timeline traces the development of this regiment of soldiers. They began as Thompson's rifle battalion. They march up to Boston. One of my key map points is the siege of Boston, showing an illustration of riflemen marching into Boston. Through some of the key battles of the war, I also discussed Valley Forge, where the Prussian drill master von Steuben came to the army, trained it in how to stand, march, load, fire together, not just fighting, not just marching, how to organize a camp and keep things clean, well organized. And in fact, I provide a link to his blue book, this document right here, which put the army on quite actually the same page. Um, every point of my map does have a link to more information. A lot of National Park Service websites, the American Battlefield Trust is linked. There are several maps to various battles. Um, and of course, we end the war. The First Pennsylvania actually did mutiny in 1780, January 1st, 1780. They were tired of ill treatment, not getting paid on time. Question about enlistments. When you say 3 years of the duration, is that just 3 years or however long the war should last? Um, so the men actually mutinied, and the First Pennsylvania was reorganized into 4 battalions of soldiers and sent south. They actually in the war. They go to Yorktown, then they march far south. Actually in the war in the Savannah, Charleston uh, area. Um, so this map is telling the story of really not just a single regiment of soldiers. It's telling the story of the American Army, how it developed, how it changed, how it matured, how it became an army that could engage British forces in battle, and if not outright defeat them, at least sustain itself, survive to fight another day. Also, an army that could cooperate with French forces that came to assist us. Um, this has been a fascinating project. I am not very tech savvy. One reason I'm taking this course is to learn these techniques. The greatest trouble I had was just simply learning to use the program. I'm going to go back. I'm going to improve it. One reason I want to do this project is that where I work, have a group of reenactor volunteers that we actually portray the first Pennsylvania Regiment soldiers. So this is something I can put onto our website, onto our Facebook page, for example. If someone's interested in us, they can click on this, learn the actual history of the unit and the men we portray. So I'm looking forward to, as I become more familiar with it, improving this, linking it to archives and more primary sources, enriching it with descriptions of weapons and uniforms. So I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. I hope you enjoyed the link as well. Any questions? I look forward to them in the comment. Thank you.